Capture this many out of this many, and whatever percentage that equates to. So, yeah, I didn't know that you checked it out right. But anything above 80% is considered bad. Anything below that, you're out of the normal range. So you're not even at much risk until you're
saying so 80% of these could be different. About 100 beats per minute, whatever it was, and you get 80 and then would be normal.
that would still qualify as normal. Yes, because you can have an irregular heartbeat. You can have a slight miss in the rhythm. You may already have one. We may not have captured it, but a lot of people have irregular heartbeats. It's not a threat to your cardiovascular system. It's not until they get maybe below 50% that it really causes a rhythm problem, because that's what controls the rhythm of the heart. And if your rhythm is really poor, there's other risks that can come into play. But you can actually have 80% irregularity and still be in the normal range. Okay? The next thing we look at is number 2. This is very similar to a Doppler echocardiogram. What we are doing is we are measuring the timing of the aortic valve. That's the thing you hear thumping in your heart. And what's happening with that aortic valve, that valve is opening and closing, and what's happening, the blood that is rushing from the left ventricle is shooting into the aorta, and that valve is what's controlling the timing. So why do we want to measure the timing of this? Well, if that valve is opening, by the way, we want to be between 260 and 380 milliseconds. Okay, that's how swiftly we want to see the timing of that valve. If the valve is moving too slowly, you could be pulling excessive blood into the aorta, which would affect your cardiac output adversely. Secondly, if it was going too fast, you could have what's called aortic stenosis, which is a narrowing of the aorta, and that is generally caused by plaquing and hardening. That's more of a risk to be on the high side than the low side. Either way, those are threats to your arterial health. We want to capture that. And again, you want to be between 260 and 380 milliseconds. The next thing we look at is the pulse rate. That's number 3 at the top right of the page. This really isn't any big revelation of information, but it does come into play with other readings. So if we've noticed some other risks in any of the readings, this might help us get a better idea as to what might be driving that risk. It helps us put some more puzzle pieces together. We want to see between 65 and 80. That is working with tight parameters. Many cardiologists will tell you 60 to 85 is a very healthy normal range to work within. The truth is you could even be below that. And you can be very athletic. A lot of athletes have heart rates of 55, 60, and that's just their normal athletic, healthy heart rate. So congenitally, from birth, you could have a slightly higher rate or slightly lower rate, but we measure this to factor it in with some of your other readings to see if it does come into play. Okay, number 4, we're looking at pulse height. There's 2 readings here, as you can see. See those 2 green arrows? One is a digital number, and the other is a little graph bar chart. If you see these 2 dark lines on that chart, we want to see you in the middle of those, between 2 and 8. And then this is the number that tells you what your reading is. What we're measuring here is stroke volume. How large is every pulse, or how dense is that pulse? And there's a couple of reasons that we want to see you, not only in the normal range, but I prefer to see people on the higher end of that normal range for these reasons. Firstly, when you are within every pulse, you're sending oxygen and nutrition to the rest of your body. So the larger that pulse, you're administering larger doses of oxygen and nutrition. That makes pretty good sense. The other thing that we're looking at is, with a large pulse, you actually have more activity along the artery walls. Activity is your friend. The more activity along the artery wall, the less potential for that atrophy, that hardening along the artery wall. So that's going to be another just a plus for having a higher pulse size. So that is one of the reasons that you want that. Now, conversely, when we see people down below this line here, you're walking around dehydrated, excuse me. A lot of people drink caffeine.
I know why I got that number then.
Yeah, a lot of people drink caffeine, and it's a diuretic. And this helps you become more aware of that, because the downside is if you think about, I see a lot of athletes that are dehydrated. They actually burn a lot. The truth is if you're not taking the extra fluids, you're cheating your body. You're working against yourself because you're not getting the nutrition and the strength and the oxygen you need to be strong during the workout. So that's one reason.
So that can change from day to day, like if I'm dehydrated today, I can actually be higher tomorrow?
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. Usually, we're going to see that it's more the normal pattern when we're screening people. Unless for some reason you drank an excessive amount of extra fluids, or you didn't drink enough fluids,
Or you drank too much wine.
or too much. Yeah, a little It's a good night before can dehydrate you the day after.
That's why that number's low today.
Okay. All right.
Confessions of Michelle Salentano.
On video. Okay, number 5. This is where I really think that the technology gets exciting. If you look at number 5 in your interpretive grade, there's actually 2 grades that we're looking at. The first one on your guide says regular or irregular. What we want to see is a regular pattern. If you did have an irregular heartbeat, or an arrhythmia, a tachycardia, something like that, there's going to be a lot of chaos in this waveform. But if it was a steady reading throughout your reading, we're going to give you a regular. Okay? The second thing we're looking for now is that notch. That's the dicrotic notch. What we're measuring, when that blood is rushing from your left ventricle and that aortic valve opens up, that blood is shooting into the aorta. Okay? That aorta and the large arteries are going to send us a big reflection wave pattern. The bigger the reflection, the more elasticity, the bigger that notch. The lack of that notch, or the lack of the presence of that notch, will definitely let us know that you can improve that elasticity. And as we said out there, the number one way to achieve that is cardio-aerobic exercise. So this is why we're such a great fit with sweat. Okay, we already mentioned.
So there's a section here that's not filled out.